it's not about solving everything. It's about figuring out how to step into things with your real feelings and looking at them and seeing how things are and processing them. And we're not meant to always be fine. I think that's just not realistic.
Hey there, welcome to Unboxing It, a podcast by Lara Wellman and me, Rowan Knox. Each week we tackle societal ideas and expectations that can stop us from leading full and authentic lives. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's get started. Well, hello, welcome to Unboxing It. I'm Rowan.
And I'm Lara.
And today we are going to talk about one of my favorite things, actually, even though this was not my idea, it was Lara's idea. We're going to talk about bravery. What is it? Is everybody as brave as we think they are? And is it okay if you're not feeling so brave about something that everyone thinks that you should be brave about?
I think we're taught we need to be brave a lot. I think that sometimes people think things that are brave aren't brave. I think sometimes we don't let ourselves feel our feelings because we think we have to be brave. And it's just like a lot of things rolled into that word.
Yeah, we decided on this topic because I'm having top surgery really soon. At time of recording, I have about a day and a half until I yeet the teats. Gosh, can we say yeet the teats here? I don't even know, but I just
Well,
said
you
it.
did.
There it is. Every time I describe it on social media, I just do like melon emoji, knife emoji. It's accurate. But there are a lot of things related to this surgery that people might associate bravery with. So there's the surgery itself, like, oh, you're so brave to be having surgery. I'm not brave to be having surgery. I'm having surgery because the alternative is misery, which is what I've been dealing with thanks to gender dysphoria for a really long time. I need these things gone. And I know that is going to improve my life. Now, are there risks to surgery? Absolutely, there are. But there are also a lot of risks to me not having surgery. I bind, for example. I wear a binder which compresses my breast, but also, unfortunately, compresses things like my spine, my neck, my shoulders. I'm in a lot of pain. So, not having to wear binders anymore is actually going to be absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
So, this is one of the aspects of bravery, or the idea that I'm somehow brave for transitioning. Now, some people might consider themselves brave for transitioning because, especially right now in this particular political climate, being trans is really hard. And being an out trans person, visible trans person, well, it's a lot. Being somebody who is just coming out, deciding like, I'm going to come out and I might not look the way that I want to look yet. I might not be presenting the way that I want to present yet. I might be waiting on things like hormones that will change, say, my face or my voice or whatever it might be, the shape of my body, things that would let me perhaps feel more comfortable walking through society when a lot of people don't like trans folk right now. I could consider that certainly brave. But the alternative to that is to continue to stay hidden and unhappy. And unhappy is, I'm minimizing that. But not being able to come out and be who you are is absolutely devastating. It's soul crushing. So, yeah, the alternative is actually worse for a lot of us than just walking through this life, as ourselves. Does that make us brave? I don't know. And we can talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's a whole side of it. And I just think with your surgery coming up, there's a lot of sides that are interesting to talk about because there's the whole, was it brave to decide to do it? Was it brave to decide to go through with it? But do you need to be brave while you're going through it? And one of the things that came to mind for me, wondering as you were going to be having surgery, is I've had surgery twice in the last 5 years, and once was less than a year ago. And I was at the hospital. It was an emergency situation to get my gallbladder removed. And in the moments, like I was fine, like, okay, let's do it. But like in the moments when you're getting ready to go into surgery, I'm scared. And it is my inner monologue that's like, just be brave, whatever. This is no big deal. Why are you getting scared, right? Not being okay with being scared. And I think that this whole part of be brave, put on a brave face, don't let it get to you is another angle of this, right? So, not that I think we all need to fall apart if we're having surgery, but it's okay to be a bit scared. It's okay to feel like, and not beat yourself up for not being braver.
Yeah. I like to make room at the table for all of my feelings. This is how I've learned to be gentle with myself because I used to beat myself up for a lot of things. And so now, if I'm feeling afraid, I imagine myself sitting at a kitchen table and I go, "Oh, fear, you're here. Okay, well, you can come sit down with me. Oh, anxiety, you're here. Okay, you can come sit down with me. Oh, excitement, there you are, the cousin to anxiety. Come and sit down. All right, we're all at the table now. I'm still going to get on with what I'm doing, but I recognize that you're here and I'm making space for that. That has helped me so much more than trying to push everything down and put on a brave face. So, am I going to be nervous when I go into the operating room? Oh, yeah, I'm sure I am. I don't know if there's a way not to be nervous with that, knowing that you're going to lose all control. Somebody's putting you to sleep, intubating you, and then working on your body. That's a really big deal. I've had a handful of surgeries in my life. I've been put under for one of them. And there is a fear associated with that. I could argue that it is brave for me to go through with it anyway. And I equate that a little bit to a story I used to read my children when they were younger. If you're Canadian, you probably know Franklin the Turtle. And Franklin the Turtle books are beautifully illustrated, especially the older ones. They're just lovely. And there was one about Franklin needing surgery, actually, but it could have been about anything. And he goes to the doctor to have a bone fixed, and he's scared. And the doctor says, "It's okay to be scared, but you're very brave." He said, "I'm not brave, I'm scared." And she says, "Franklin, being brave is being scared and doing it anyway." So, by definition, I guess a lot of things that I have done and probably that you've decided to do, Lara, are brave.
Yeah, I often talk about that when it comes to some of the things I share. We may have talked about this on the podcast before, but people will say I'm brave for sharing stories that a lot of people don't share, right? So when I started talking about my ADHD, it was almost 10 years ago, and it wasn't quite so talked about already. Like I feel like now everybody's talking about ADHD. It's not quite as unusual, but back then it was a lot less talked about, and people were like, "You're so brave to share that about yourself." Because to them, that means people are going to think something's wrong with you. First of all, that's why they're saying that. But for whatever reason, I never felt uncomfortable with that diagnosis. I wasn't like, I'm going to decide to be brave and share this thing. I'd be like, hey, I want everybody to know this thing. Like it was very easy. Therefore, it did not require bravery. And so I think that part of that is knowing, like, to me, bravery is doing something that's difficult for you, that's scary for you. So I completely agree with that. And just because something would require bravery for you doesn't mean it would require bravery for everybody. Because, hey, back to the same point I come to all the time, we're all different. But I think acknowledging that and knowing that doing things that scare you or that are hard is what requires bravery changes a little bit about what that means to you. I also just want to jump back to what you said a few minutes ago because I really think it's interesting. So we're at a table with your fear and your anxiety
And my excitement.
and your excitement.
We're all hanging out.
Is this like in your head a visual of a bunch of people at a table?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a nightmare because it's me and three other me's.
And do you all look like the same person?
Yeah, we all look the same.
Look, if you guys haven't heard the episode about brains being different and my aphantasia versus Rowan's not aphantasia, this just like blows my mind. I just can't compute what that could be like.
Well, I mean, think of a horror movie where somebody meets the demon version of themselves, except it's not really a demon version. It's just a more nervous version or a really sad version or whatever it is. But I just try really hard to make space for the feelings that I, for so long, tried to push away. So if before I would feel anxious about something and then try to tell myself I shouldn't feel anxious and that if I just worked on things and changed my mindset and did this and this and this, I would not feel anxious. I've stopped doing that. And it's not that working on your mindset isn't a good thing. I do a lot of mindset work for myself. I'm always thinking about how I could think about things in a way that is better for me. But that's not going to work all the time. We are human beings, and literally none of us are perfect. If anyone ever says to you, and I think I'm sort of paraphrasing a Buddhist monk that I saw talk about this one day, but if anybody tells you that they have completely solved the issue of being afraid or being anxious or being angry or whatever it is, they're probably not being honest with themselves
Totally.
because we are all human beings. And no matter how you feel about that, why we're here, what have you, we are having a human experience. And that human experience has those feelings, at least occasionally, attached to it. So making space for those feelings is paramount to accepting our humanity.
And I think that idea of being able to sit at a table and talk it out is a great way of dealing with it. I think if given the choice to do that, it would require a lot of bravery from me to agree to do it. Because I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. And so it's not about solving everything, it's about figuring out how to step into things with your real feelings and looking at them and seeing how things are and processing them. And we're not meant to always be fine. I think that's just not realistic. We're all, like you said, human beings living lives that have people in them that we care about, things that are unexpected, other people controlling things that might impact us. There is going to be some things we have to deal with that are out of our control, and that's not usually going to feel very comfortable. And so it's not about it not bothering us, it's about figuring how to get through it. I once saw somebody say, I was on Facebook. It's always back to social media. I saw a TikTok, but this was a Facebook post. And somebody was really frustrated that people said it's okay to not be okay because she felt like that was giving people permission to fall apart.
Mm.
And I don't think that's what that means. I think what it means is it's okay to let yourself feel the discomfort that happens in your life. It's okay to not always put on a brave face. It's okay because toxic positivity to me is what the alternative is, where you pretend everything's okay and then you shove down the feelings. We're not meant to always be okay. And if we pretend we are, we're not going to deal with the stuff. And if you can sit down at a table with yourself and talk it out, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it isn't even just allowing the feelings to exist and acknowledging them. The next step for that with me is that I almost parent them. So it's kind of like having a child who's having a really bad day. When I was younger, for a variety of reasons, I did not feel safe expressing a lot of my feelings. And as a result, I learned to bottle them up or to suppress them in some way or to try and tell myself that toxic positivity thing. If I just think positive thoughts, if I just change how I look at things, everything will be fine. And this is all in my head. I now allow myself not only to acknowledge the feelings, but to love those parts of myself that are in distress. That has made it so much easier and faster for them to see themselves in and then see themselves out again because all feelings are transient. All feelings are impermanent. They come and then they go. That's the feelings that we ascribe positivity to and the feelings that we ascribe negativity to. All of those feelings exist for a time and then leave, and then they come back again another time. But the more I deny that I'm afraid, let's say I was really afraid of this surgery coming up. I'm not, but let's say I was really afraid of it. The more I deny that fear and tell myself it doesn't exist and I just need to be brave, the more it is going to be banging at that door, just trying to get out. But if I acknowledge it, and I'm guessing that the morning of that surgery or the night before or whatever happens when I'm in the OR, I'm going to be going, oh, wow, I'm nervous now. And I need to just let that fear in, be like, yes, I see you. I'm afraid right now. There's a part of me that's afraid right now. Okay, you can stay here. We're still getting the surgery done, though. Like that's still happening, but you're here. That's okay. And I love you, and everything's going to be okay. And I kind of parent it, if you will. When I do that, it's almost like everything calms down faster and then it leaves again. So, yeah, this has been the trick rather than beating myself up. Imagine, I'm 49 years old. I figured this out not that long ago.
I think there are a lot of people who never figure it out. So they're older than us and they haven't figured out how to allow these feelings through. And so it just does, it bottles up more and more. And I will fully admit that I suppress emotions and I don't even know that I'm doing it. And hey, maybe there's some expert listening who wants to come talk to us about it. Like, how do you unlock and let the feelings go through you when you don't know you're having them, but you know that they're in there impacting you, but you don't know how to access them? That is 100% a thing that I believe is happening inside of me, and I have not figured out the solution yet. However, I also have learned to start letting the feelings I do feel come up and through me, because feelings can pass through you a lot faster if you allow them through than if you try to not feel them. So every once in a while, I'll feel something come up and I'll feel myself try to push it down. And then I'll be like, no, we can feel this. It's okay. And it does, it comes out and it kind of passes faster. I also think the last time I was waiting for surgery, there's like a section of time for me anyway. My surgery was very late at night because it was an emergency surgery. So I was like in like the prep area waiting. They'd taken my phone. Nobody was with me because I had been taken out of my room. I had nothing to distract me from the fact that I was feeling these feelings. And so I did say, okay, it's okay. I'm going to feel the feelings. It's okay that I'm scared. I'm going to be okay. It's okay to worry about it. It's okay to tell yourself you're going to be okay. Like, I think I did process it more without distractions from other people, which I think is interesting as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Not that I want to psychoanalyze you.
I mean, you can try.
What I have found in the past, for me at least, is when I am so overwhelmed with life, that is when all my feelings try to shut down. So, unfortunately, though, that means yes, I don't feel fear as much. I don't feel anger. I don't feel all of those things for sure. But I also don't feel as much joy. I don't laugh as easily. I don't get happy as much. And everything's just kind of muted. And that absolutely can happen from time to time. Not saying that that is the case with you, but I do know for me.
Oh, it 100% is the case for me. I know that. I figured out a long time that holding back the bad feelings numbs the good feelings. And so it's kind of like on either end of the spectrum. I think that all the feelings are less big, full than they would be otherwise. And I think it's a bit better than it used to be, but I'm not there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think in its own way, that's brave to talk about because it's something that a lot of people are experiencing and don't know they're experiencing or don't want to admit they're experiencing. So having someone else admit it is quite refreshing. I wish I had had words for it when I was going through it. Now I just feel everything. I cry so easily, which I learned that testosterone was supposed to make me cry less. That is a lie.
Or maybe you would have cried even more before.
Oh, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. No, I don't cry as much as my partner. She cries way more than me, but I definitely would not say I cry less than I used to. Yeah, bravery is such a weird thing. I think people call me brave almost every day on the internet, and I'm not exaggerating. If you were to find anything I post that gets some traction, underneath that somewhere, somebody's going to say that I'm brave.
Because they can't imagine being able to say things like that. And that doesn't mean that inherently the thing was brave. It means that what you said, if they thought about doing it, scares them. That's what I think.
Yeah, it creates some vulnerability, right? The idea, it'd be very vulnerable for them to do that. And it's not that there haven't been things that I've said and done that have felt extremely vulnerable. In fact, I would argue a lot of the big things that I've been honest about publicly have left me feeling vulnerable.
Mhm.
But I also want to say that I come from a place of great privilege in that I have an excellent support system. And I do not worry every day about losing that support system. It is not tied to me following specific religious practices or beliefs. It's not tied to me having a specific job that I could lose if I come out as trans or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have that worry. My friends and my family are very much aligned in the belief of authenticity and inclusion. And so I can say these things, and no matter how awful people might be online when I share bits of my transition, or I share about my mental health, or I share about anything else, I know I can just put the little pocket computer away and step out into my real world, and I have all the love I need. Not everybody has that. In fact, I would argue a lot of people in my situation have less of that than I do, if not most. And that is a real problem in itself. Being yourself should never cause this. Just being a trans person or a queer person or whoever you are should never cause you to lose people. But I digress. That is the reality. And so it might be a lot braver for somebody else to do the exact same thing that I'm doing. That I would quantify as brave. What I'm doing is I'm opening myself up to some negativity online. Occasionally in the past, I have opened myself up to threats. I've had death threats. I've had all kinds of, I've been stalked. I've had, yes, absolutely, those things have happened. And I suspect at some point in my life will happen again, unfortunately. But overall, I feel safe. So I don't need to tap into bravery to do that.
I think you and I also both are naturally storytellers. I don't know if it's all the same in all the ways, but for me, part of storytelling helps me process things, right? So I know I recently was having a conversation with another friend who said the same thing. Like some of the things that she shares online or into the world are things people are like, why are you sharing so many things? It's because it helps me process it. When I have this back and forth conversation with people, when I bring people into the conversation, it helps me process, figure out how I feel, move through it, figure out what to do. And the other piece, again, might be true for you as well, is I think that sort of more traditional storyteller role is partially in helping community, right? If I am feeling this, it is my intrinsic desire to make sure that I can help other people travel through something like that with a little more ease than I did. And I think some of the things I've shared, the ADHD, the endometriosis, all of that is stuff that there hasn't been enough information out there. I had to go hunting for it a lot more than people do if I'm telling them all the stuff I've figured out already. And they're getting light bulbs a little bit sooner, or they know where to go for information. So, again, it doesn't require bravery for me, something natural comes up. And I think this conversation is a little bit of both sides of this conversation. One is you don't have to try to figure out how what you're doing is brave if it doesn't feel like it requires bravery. And it's okay to feel like you need to be brave to do things that maybe you think you shouldn't need to be brave to do.
That last part is especially important because we don't all start from the same place.
Mhm.
My starting line with something might be ahead of yours, like I was just explaining. For me, coming out as trans when I already had trans family members and we had already lost the people we were going to lose by somebody coming out as trans, I didn't have to deal with that. I already knew that all of my friends were gonna be okay. They might be surprised, it might be a little weird for them. They might mess up my name sometimes or whatever, but, like, I knew that my core support group, my family, my friends, my kids, they already got it. So, I was able to step into that and just be like, "This is me," and everybody was like, "Yeah, okay, we still love you, next." And somebody else might be going, yeah, okay, well, Rowan did this and it didn't seem to be a big deal for him. So it shouldn't be a big deal for me. No, my friend, because you might have way more to worry about than I did. I already had a job where I was advocating for trans rights. I mean, everything was already fairly secure for me to be able to come out and do this. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. Not that it wasn't hard, not that I didn't get a ton of hate, but nothing awful happened. And I didn't expect anything awful to happen. But somebody else might be dealing with, I might lose my job. I might lose my partner. My kids might never talk to me again. My friends are all ultra conservative and they make jokes about trans people all the time. I live in a small town where everybody votes against people like me. That is a completely different situation. And if you are coming out and that is your starting point, I consider that incredibly courageous.
Yeah. I think also when it comes to thinking other people aren't struggling with things, so you shouldn't either, is remembering that you're not seeing everybody's full story, right? The whole what people share online is the clean, nice version of things, not the messy, how I got to this place version. And we can't just use the information we collect that way as proof of what we're supposed to feel like because we don't know probably 80% of the story.
Yeah, it's all curated. I mean, even the stuff that I put up is curated. It's not fake. I'm never fake. I don't make stuff up. I'm not going to tell a story if I have to omit things that would make it inauthentic, but I don't spill my guts on the internet. It might seem like I do sometimes, but there's a whole lot I'm not saying. And if that's me, somebody who prides myself on being really honest, and I believe a lot of people would say, if they knew me online and met me in person, they'd be like, you're exactly what I expected. You're the same person because I do try very hard to just not be anybody but myself. But if that's me, you also have a lot of other people who maybe are not making that one of their pillars when they post things online. And you might have an influencer who talks about having depression, but only talks about a little bit of it and doesn't get into the really, really, really dark stuff and how incredibly hard it was, or how the first four medications didn't work for them, or how they almost broke up with their partner because it was just such a bad time. I mean, you're probably missing a lot of what's happening.
Yeah, because even if we tell those scary parts of the story and the parts that were really difficult, if you're no longer in the really scary part, you probably sound okay about it, right? So, like, if you say, like, it was really terrible and I was upset all of the time and it felt all the awful things, but you sound like you're not upset, it doesn't necessarily compute to the other person that that was really actually difficult because you sound okay. And I don't think we should be talking about things in a storytelling online way often. I mean, there are exceptions when you're in the middle of dealing with it and you haven't figured out what's okay to share, because I think you need to be careful with yourself and what's going to be okay to share. That doesn't mean you can't share it later, but it doesn't mean you have to share it when it's raw and like a super open wound.
When I had my breast biopsy, which ended up happening because I needed a mammogram before this surgery I'm getting in a couple of days. when I was waiting to have the breast biopsy, when I was waiting to get the results of that, and even before that, from the time I got the mammogram, I knew that there were all these feelings that I was processing and that were making me really scared and really uncomfortable. And I talked to you, Lara. I talked to a handful of people about it, but I didn't even breathe a word of it online because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about first. Was I talking about a health scare that ended up being a benign something in my breast? Or was I talking about this is the beginning of me being diagnosed with cancer? And then it would have been, okay, what type of cancer? What stage of cancer? What is the treatment? There are all these extra steps that I would have had to figure out. And I'm very fortunate that the findings were benign. And once I had processed that, I was able to say something in a storytelling way that allowed for the right message to get out. And the message I really, really wanted to get out, which is right in line with what we were talking about earlier, as a trans man, I really wanted to put a story out about a trans man taking care of his breast health and how important that is. And on top of that, really important to say that I was 49 and I had not had a mammogram yet because the idea made me deeply uncomfortable just from the dysphoria perspective. And that should not have stopped me because who knows, they could have found something that was pretty advanced and they would have caught it sooner. So I really was like, if I can just help somebody by normalizing trans men getting these types of screenings, then maybe that can help someone save their life. Right. So that was really the whole thing. But when I was in the middle of it, there was no way I could have told that story. I was just too scared.
Yeah. And I think it's an important conversation to talk about from the perspective of a trans man. But I also know a lot of people who are afraid of going to get their first mammogram because they think it's going to hurt. Because, gosh, there are a lot of stories out there about it hurting, or because they don't want to find out what it could tell you, which I understand why people are scared of that, even though you know you should go find out about it logically. So let's kind of just bring this all together, right? Which is we want to talk about bravery because there are these different sides of it. And I hope what people take from this is that it's okay sometimes to do things other people think are brave that don't feel like you need bravery. It's okay to be scared of things that you in your head think you shouldn't be scared of. We all have feelings. Feelings aren't bad, even though I still need to learn how to find mine sometimes. And the more we let them come up and let ourselves process them, the better we are in the long run.
And also, I think it's important to say it is okay for you to go through something and think to yourself, that was really brave of me. That
Mm-hmm.
was really brave of me. You know, when I got my biopsy and I had to, as a trans man who up until very recently had massive hypochondria, health anxiety, illness anxiety, it goes by many names. The idea of lying on a table with my breast hanging beneath me and having all these people manipulate it and squish it into a mammogram over and over and stick a needle in it and all those things that happen, that took courage for me to do. There is no question. Now, the alternative was I wasn't going to get this surgery. And also, I could maybe have cancer and not find out about it. And both of those things were terrible. So I obviously had to go through this. But I was a wreck. I cried in the waiting room. I cried when I saw the biopsy machine. I cried a lot, like I hadn't cried in a long time. And so, yeah, when I walked out of there, I was so raw. And also, I took a moment to tell myself, that was really courageous, Rowan. You did well.
Yeah. I think that just like bragging, people are like, don't brag, don't think too much of yourself. I think we get to acknowledge the things that we did that were brave, the things that we did that were good. Like, we don't need to make ourselves smaller so that people don't think we're bragging, boastful. Why are you talking about that? All of those things.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between ego and confidence. And I've said this before, but to me, ego is about comparing yourself to everyone else in a room. And confidence is knowing that you are innately a good person as you are. You are not competing with anyone else when it comes to confidence. You just feel good in yourself. And it is okay for a confident person to say, I feel brave. I feel like I did something brave. I went back to school and that was really brave of me. Or I took a trip by myself and I was scared to do it. And that was really brave of me. Whatever you want to say to yourself, I think we need to give ourselves big ups. The difference between that and going, well, I didn't cry when I got a biopsy, but Rowan did. And that makes me braver than Rowan. That is work of the ego, right? So it's about celebrating who you are rather than comparing yourself to a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of other episodes we will link to in the show notes because we did one on confidence and arrogance. We did one on brains being different. So you guys can come and check out the links to those, which will be in the show notes.
Well, this is my last episode before surgery, providing everything goes well. So this one was special,
Yeah,
and I cannot wait to update everybody when I am on the other side of this and let you know how I feel.
amazing. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please don't forget to subscribe and give us a nice review if you liked this.
Yes, please do. Thank you. Hey there, it's Rowan with a bit of an update. I am 5 days post surgery and feeling pretty good. Not a lot of pain, but a whole lot of smiles. Glad I took the leap. See you next time. Thank you for listening to Unboxing It. We're so glad you did. If you like what you heard and you want to help us keep making episodes, please leave us a rating wherever you heard this one. You can also subscribe to the Unboxing It Substack to get access to all of the latest news and some special bonus content. And hey, truly, don't forget to find some moments of joy today. You deserve them. Take care out there, and we'll see you next time.